All right, good morning. Welcome to the April EHC lesson, Important Papers, What to Keep and Where to Organize. It's a lot of clutter. And so to start off our presentation today, I want you to close your eyes and picture that you are the person in this scene. You're running late and the keys can't be found as you're racing out the door. On the way to school, your child says the project due today was left at home. So you turn around and realize that you'll be late for work again, putting your job in jeopardy. You have an argument about why it was forgotten. You frown as you realize that your child is just as disorganized as you, and it will have negative consequences throughout his life. When you get home that evening, you suddenly remember an appointment with your new doctor. What was even their name? First thing tomorrow, the same time you scheduled a conference with a parent. There are piles of paper everywhere and you can't find that slip of paper with the doctor's name and phone number to reschedule. There are a couple of past due notices as you glance at the ever-growing pile of unopened mail. The bills will be paid late again. There is nothing to eat for dinner and you're too exhausted to buy groceries and prepare a meal. So thinking about that story, what problems in this story had to do with paper clutter? Because today we're going to talk a lot about clutter. How many of you have stacks like this or have had stacks like this? I know during busy times, my desk looks like that from time to time. Every day, American businesses generate enough paper to circle the earth 20 times. Junk mail, school papers, receipts, office memos. Sometimes it's hard to know what to do with all the paper. Learning to organize paper, control the clutter, and keep important records can reduce stress and help you become more productive. Consider this. The U.S. puts out 24 billion newspapers, 2 billion books, 350 million magazines, and around 2.6 billion holiday cards all in 1 year. On top of that, the average office worker goes through 10,000 sheets of paper annually. Clearly, many people rely on paper to stay in business, meaning that reducing paper production will be an uphill battle. You know, every day when I check my mailbox, there's 3 to 4 things that I have nothing to do with anything I ask for. It's just solicitations and junk mail. And after a while, that stuff can build up. So the evil clutter fairy is doing her nightly rounds, and you can see in the cartoon, she's whispering in his ear, 3 weeks after throwing something away, you'll need it again. A lot of times we don't want to throw things away and papers away because we feel like we might possibly need it. So in this lesson, we're going to talk about ways that we can silence that evil clutter fairy and learn methods for controlling paper clutter. It does take some time to organize your efforts, but there's a lot of benefits, especially in crisis situations where it makes it easier to find the things you want. So organizing papers saves time, reduces stress, helps you stay on time for paying bills and other obligations, helps you locate papers when you need them, for things like proof of payment, disputing errors, and providing documentation for taxes. According to a study conducted by a Boston marketing firm, the average American burns 55 minutes a day looking for things they know they own, but they can't find them. I know I would like to have that 55 minutes back to do other things. A Harris Interactive study reports that 23% of adults say they pay bills late and incur fees because they lose them. That can be really expensive on our budgets by the end of each year. So let's get rid of that pile. It's time to create a file. And you want to divide your categories into active, keepers, VIPs, and discards. So this, if you have a random pile of miscellaneous papers somewhere, this would be a good place to start. You want to organize, like I said, in those 4 categories. Active papers are those items that need attention, such as bills to be paid. Keepers are things you want or need to keep. You know, if you have a newspaper and there's a particular item you want in there, that's a keeper. So you want to put that in that file, but then you want to take the time to go ahead and keep what you wanted out of it and figure out where it needs to go permanently. Your VIPs are your very important papers, just like it sounds. Those are things like your birth certificates, your social security cards that need storage. Maybe it's a marriage certificate. Discard are things that need to be recycled or thrown away, like last week's newspaper. It's a magazine. If you've read it and there's nothing in there that you want to keep long term, time to discard those. So let's take a closer look at each of these categories and talk about sorting and storage. So your active category, as I said, is your current bills. It may be a current project. If you're, say, doing a house remodel, you want to keep that in your current file. You may want to be tracking expenses, or maybe it's information that you're going to need to give the contractor. Your current receipts, 30 to 90 days. And that corresponds with some bank regulations on how long you can dispute, say, credit card or debit card disputes. So if you keep those 30 to 90 days, if you have an error on your account, you still have your proof of purchase. Your frequently used names, addresses, and phone numbers. You know, if there's a crisis situation, kind of like we're in now, where we can't just go visit people, if we have those frequently used names, addresses, and phone numbers, then we can easily contact who needs to be contacted. Or if someone's having to contact on our behalf, they will know where to find that information. And then anything you must access often or that needs attention soon. You know, it could be that you have your car insurance set up on quarterly or semi-annually. And if that's coming up, you would want to put that in that file. Organizing active files, you want to keep those in a convenient location, somewhere where you won't forget them. I have a little folder set up close to my desk in the kitchen because I can cook supper and go look through that file if I need to, or if I need to quickly pay a bill, it's right there at my fingertips. You want to label those as bills due or kitchen remodel. So your active file may have multiple sub-files in there as well. It just depends on what your circumstances are. Use 1 through 31 tabs to organize by due date. If you have a lot of expenses or a lot of things to keep up with by calendar date, maybe it's even your doctor's appointment information. Using those tabs can be very convenient, or just using monthly tabs to organize your monthly task. Really, you can create whatever system works best for you. So your keepers are your tax documents, up to 6 years, anything on home improvement, child care expenses, and other tax-related expenses, medical bills and insurance claims to verify payment. Because if any of you have been in the hospital or have had a more lengthy treatment, you know that it can be 6 months to a year before they actually get around to billing you. I actually had that happen. And I've had a hospitalization 2018. I am still getting bill filings on that. So I'm having to go back and check to make sure that it's correct. You want to keep your health and vaccination records, warranties and owner's manuals, credit card statements to verify accuracy, reference papers and articles. Those are the things that you want to keep that you're going to use on a more frequent basis. It might be that recipe out of the newspaper that you wanted to keep. And then your VIPs are also keepers, but they're going to require special storage. So we'll talk about that later. So your file storage method can be as individual as you are. Everybody has their own favorites. I'm actually a binder freak. I like to have lots of binders, and so all my home warranties are in binders with tabs. Some people like boxes. Some people like to scan in their documents and save it on their computer files instead of actually keeping the paper. It can be as simple as like the nightstand looking picture with the plan on it that has filing cabinets in it. Maybe that sits beside your favorite chair, and that's the easiest way for you to keep up with things. But there's so many options out there, and you can just pick whatever fits your needs the most. So some file tips. Hanging folders, remember the spring set adjuster in the back of the metal file cabinet drawers? Hanging folders hang onto that metal rack and it doesn't have to be adjusted. Some people find it easier to remove the files using the hanging file folders. So what they're talking about, I don't know if you can see it, is the little metal rack around there. It's usually set to fit, but it doesn't always want to stay in place like you want. So if you want to, you can take that out. Other file cabinets have a little lip on it already. It doesn't have the metal rack. And so in that case, you can just put the notches on there. I actually don't like these little notched hanging file folders because they tend to hang up on each other. I actually like just the larger, they're paper size envelopes, but they stand up on their own. And so I can label the top of that envelope and just stick it in the drawer, and I don't have to worry about the back of the folder coming undone or anything like that. So again, lots of options here. While we're at home for social distancing, you have some opportunities. You can shop online and see what things might work for you. But you do want to make sure you label them in some way. Otherwise, this is a lot to look at and try to figure out what's in each of those folders. You can see there's no tabs on there. And so she's having to hunt for the actual file that she's looking for. Use staples, not paper clips. Again, this has to do with things hanging up and actually accidentally attaching things to other things. So use staples to hold stacks of things that are the same together. And then using colored folders to distinguish categories. I like the color system too. I can kind of remember that, okay, bills that need to be paid right now, this week, or in the next 2 weeks, that's in that red folder because that's urgent. And then things that are in my green folder are the bills that I've paid and that they need to be kept for the right amount of time and then discarded. Again, 3-ring binders. Like I said, I love binders. Very convenient way to organize. And then your electronic storage on your computer. Most printers these days have a scan function. So if you want to just scan your receipts and have a receipt file folder, that's a convenient way, and then you can go ahead and shred the original paper ones. So let's look at the very important paper category. You have your Social Security cards, marriage certificates, birth certificates, adoption papers, citizenship records, military records, death certificates, automobile titles, contracts, property deeds, mortgage papers, investment certificates, savings bonds, and you can guys finish reading the list. There's a lot of things on there. I do want to point out the household inventory because that's something that you create for emergency situations to prove to the insurance companies if you have a disaster in your home and your contents are stolen or destroyed, you need that so that you can prove what all you had in your household at that time, especially if you have replacement of contents, not just insurance on the structure. So that's one that you will create and need to maintain. Photos and videos. You know, maybe it's your wedding video, or maybe it's the photo of your parents when they got married, that there's not any way to reproduce that. So keeping copies of important photos and videos. And then serial numbers. That also is important for insurance purposes if you have a disaster or if you have something stolen. And then any other legal papers. If you own a business, that would be all kinds of papers with that. If you've ever been in a lawsuit, anything that goes with legal papers, those are very important because they're hard to replace at a moment's notice. So let's talk about safely storing these items. The safest place to store your VIPs is in a bank safe deposit box. These usually have an annual rental fee based on the box size. Small safe deposit boxes typically rent for $15 to $25. I actually think maybe some banks are a little bit higher than that now, but for a small amount of price, you can get a storage system where you know that your documents are safe. Larger boxes will be more expensive. You can purchase the fireproof lock boxes at discount department stores. Walmart actually sells these. And even I've seen some small ones at Dollar General. And they're very inexpensive too, as little as $25 for the envelope size one. Bank safe deposits can usually only be accessed by the registered owner. So that is something important to consider. If you're going to rent a safe deposit box, you want to add at least one other person to that box, so that if they needed to access your papers for you in an emergency situation, they could. And then you would also need to specify who's to receive the contents upon your death. So replacing valuable papers, this can be a really time-consuming and frustrating process if you're not prepared. So your birth certificates are going to be the Department of Vital Records. Guys, hold for just a moment. I'm getting an internet instability message, so let me let that clear out so that I make sure that we don't lose recording. Okay, I think it's stable now. Your death certificates are also from Vital Records, and your marriage certificates are from Vital Records. Divorce records, you can get those from Vital Records or from an attorney. Insurance policies from your insurance provider or the Arkansas Insurance Department. Social Security cards online or through your local Social Security office. Driver's license, local revenue office, and then your property deeds, your county circuit clerk, and passports from the Postal Service. The Arkansas Department of Health Division of Vital Records is actually located in Little Rock, and you can visit their website for information. Now, just having the list of the places you get those from is not all there's going to be to it. What you would want to do before going to any of these places is call and find out what kind of proof you have to bring with you in order to obtain the records that you want. Sometimes that's challenging, especially if it's your driver's license you've lost. You've got to have records to show who you are. They're not going to reissue that to you. Birth certificates, death certificates, all of those things, they have verification processes before they will release the information to you. So let's talk about the discard. Like Oscar the Grouch, I love trash. There are a lot of things that we can recycle if recycling is available in your area, or you can just trash it. Junk mail, those school papers, you know, once they're done with your school papers, you don't have to keep those. If it's something special your child has created, wonderful, save that in your keeper's file. But just regular notes from teachers or information that's sent home that you're not using, that goes in discard. Your magazines and catalogs. I know right now my seed catalog pile is filling up because it's about time to go gardening. And I think we've gotten 10 different catalogs in the mail. So what we'll do is go through and decide if we want to keep any of those. If not, we'll discard them. If a warranty is expired, there's no reason to keep that any longer. So you can go ahead and discard that. Receipts older than 90 days, unless it's something that's important that goes with a warranty item that goes beyond 90 days, you can go ahead and get rid of those. And then your old canceled checks, unless they're needed for tax purposes. Another opportunity here is that you can shred those items. If it's a canceled check or if it has my account number on there, anything that has personally identifiable information, I use a shredder. And actually discount stores also sell those. They're not terribly expensive, especially for the small amount of volume that a household uses them. But it gives you great peace of mind knowing that somebody is not going to find your trash bag on the side of the road if it falls off the garbage truck, and be able to access your name, your address, your account number, and those types of things. So you can shred anything like that. And then your larger trash, like those magazines that only have your name on them, just rip your name and address off the back, and then you can go ahead and trash that. So for your recycle items, you can do paper and cardboard, aluminum, steel, and tin, glass, and your plastic containers. If you have recycling available. In my community, we don't. So I collect some paper things that I can take to a larger kind of dumpster sorting recycling facility. For the trash can, coated paper products. If it's that slick coated paper, that's not usually a recyclable item for most recycling facilities. So you want to go ahead and throw that away. Styrofoam, disposable diapers for obvious reasons, food wrappers, and food related items. So if it's, say, we use Ziploc bags to store foods in a lot. You wouldn't recycle that because it's had food in it. And then special recycling bin items are plastic bags, empty ink cartridges, household batteries, light bulbs, and clothing. I've noticed, for example, at the Walmart in Malvern, they have a bin set up where you can donate clothes rather than taking it to a local thrift store. And then you'll also see sometimes at office supply stores that they'll have a recycle bin set up for ink cartridges. So if you have opportunities to recycle those items, that's a great idea too. It'll reduce some clutter, and it'll also make you feel good about your environmental impact by getting those things recycled. So attack the stack. What percentage do you think that once you file it never gets looked at again? I know you guys can't answer me because you're on mute. It's 80%. Once you file it, 80% of it never gets looked at again. So that just tells us that we still are hanging on to more stuff than we actually need. But we're also prepared. If we had to have something like those VIP items, we would be ready. So when you're thinking about whether you need to put something in that keeper file, what you want to ask yourself is it useful? Is the information current? You know, some things, information is rapidly changing on. In my generation, I got to see the first cell phone, bag phone, and then we've gone all the way up to these smartphones that we have now. Well, if I had my old bag phone laying around, it's really not useful. I'm not even sure that it could be sold as an antique, but those are the type things. Is it current? If it's not, it's just causing clutter. So go ahead and let go of those things. How hard would it be to get this information later? If it's the only piece of paper proving you have warranty on something, you need to keep it. But if it's something that you can easily go and print off the internet, then, or that you can get to in a moment's notice some other way, maybe even by calling, then go ahead and let those things go. And is this piece of paper helping me achieve my goals? It might be a sheet of paper that has what your savings goal for the year is, a dream vacation you want to take, things that you're planning for. Those would be important because they're helping you stay on track with your goals. So we're going to play the matching game. I'm going to give you just a few moments to look. The items on the left side of your screen are items that might be in that clutter pile. And then the items on the right are how long to keep it. And so the goal of the game is to match up what goes with what. So I'm going to let you look for a moment, and then we're going to go through. Okay, so you should have a couple ideas. I'm going to go ahead and show you. So your retail receipt, debit, long enough to verify on the bank statement. Your car title, as long as you own it. Charitable donation, cash for tax time. Passport until it expires. Utility bill until the next statement arrives. Newspaper, discard after reading. And the birth certificate, always keep that. So I hope these tips have helped you think about how to attack the clutter and get a filing system started if you don't already have one. I'm going to stop sharing this screen for a moment, and I want to show you where some other valuable resources are. Okay, so this is the Arkansas Extension Homemakers webpage on the UADX.edu website. There's more information about today's lesson. Let me scroll back up. So lesson guides right here. You scroll down to the bottom. There are some handouts for this lesson if you want. In just a second. There it is. Quick tips to dealing with paper clutter and replacing valuable papers. Those are handouts you can print if you want, or if you just want to reference them, you can find them. And again, that's on the www.uaex.edu website, and then your Extension Homemakers page. So that's under Life Skills and Wellness. And then let me also show you, if you need more information about filing. Taking it just a moment. Okay, so there are all kinds of resources on the personal finance page, also on the website. So basic money management, blogs, there's all kinds of information for you here. Living resourcefully with lower income. And then you guys also have your own Facebook page that you can access for Arkansas Extension Homemakers. And so that's UAEX Arkansas Extension Homemakers. That's available for you. And you can keep up with updates that are going on there. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. We only have a few minutes left. I'm going to unmute your microphones. All right. Well, it didn't get everybody. Hold on just a second. Unmute all. All right, there we go. Does anybody have any questions in the last few minutes that we have? No? Okay. Well, I'm going to stop the recording. Give me just a moment.
She said,